And in the ground did some looking at the crew module and service module, a survey to just see how the vehicle is doing from an external view. We also continued some OpComm passes, so the optical comm antenna that we have on board to downlink high rate images. We were able to do that overnight. This morning when the crew woke up, they had their normal planning conferences, and then they were able to do their family conferences, so they were to talk to their family. And they also did another noise characterization of how loud the toilet was, so they performed that. We had planned today a trajectory correction burn for OTC-1 is what it's called, orbital trajectory correction. The systems are doing so well, navigation and propulsion systems together, that was not needed, so we'll roll that in to the next planned trajectory correction tomorrow. And I'll hand it over to Howard to talk any specifics on the Orion systems.
Thanks, Judd. Great to be here again. Let's see, our subsystems continue to perform very well. Everything is nominal and as expected, so really good to report that today to you. As Judd said, we did the translunar injection yesterday, and we get a chance to look at the data, and the propellant usage was within 5% of our predicted usage limits. So it was really good to see it go so well, and the performance for that 5 minutes, 50 seconds was outstanding. Let's see, across other subsystems, no issues relative to solar array and power generation. The air revitalization system is doing very well. We are scrubbing CO2 at very good, healthy levels. We're keeping the humidity in the right range. And the crew, obviously, you've seen, looks like they're enjoying their time in the cabin. And across various other subsystems, like I said earlier, we're performing as expected or better in some cases. Now, we are working through one issue with the SM prop in terms of pressurization. So we have helium that pressurizes the propellant tanks, basically pushes out the oxidizer and the fuel in order to make some of the major burns. And so we had to shut off, isolate one of the branches. We have redundant branches in the system, no emission impacts. This is why we build redundancy in the system. But we're evaluating that. We're looking at that. That's maybe something you heard on the loop relative to what we need to do to isolate this particular branch. The second branch is ready to go. And when I say no mission impacts, we're able to perform the rest of the burns across the mission without doing any regulation, what we call blowdown mode. In other words, there's enough helium pressure in the tanks itself that we can push out the oxidizer and the fuel without needing to regulate or require more helium from the helium tanks. So overall, our redundant capabilities are providing the coverage that we need as we move across the mission. Let's see. Yesterday also, I think somebody asked this question, but the crew was able to exercise. And I said yesterday, I think we talked a little about any performance implications on the guidance navigation control system and talked to our experts, and there were no implications on that. So performed as expected in terms of what we thought the forces that would get imparted when the crew does the flywheel, that we addressed that very clearly through our design. And I'm happy to see that performance held up very well. Let's see, I have, I guess, my own couple images that Lakeisha showed you some, and I have a couple of my favorites. So the first one is just awesome to see from our spaceship. Out the window, our beautiful home planet, the Earth. I believe Reed took this picture, and it just brings a lot of great emotion to me, and to see that picture being taken. I know there's a lot of other pictures that we're going to see that are just going to be outstanding and fantastic to be able to enjoy. And then the second one, I had not seen the crew in a while. I've obviously heard them, but to see them in the interview, I do believe that I think Jeremy is too comfortable that way. I'm not sure he's working that hard, so I'm going to have to check to see if he's doing anything more than just laying there on the side here. But great to see the crew, great to see their smiling faces, and hear them talk about their experience already so far. And I can't wait to talk to them when they land home back Earth. And I think that's it for me today.
All right, thank you. We will go ahead and start our Q&A session. If you're in the room, please raise your hand if you have any questions. And if you're on our phone bridge, please press *1. We'll start right here with Mark in the back.
Hey, hello, everyone. Good to see you all again. Mark Strassman with CBS. John, I want to ask you a question, if it's okay. There are millions of Americans, unlike people in this room, who are just catching up with the fact that there's a moonshot going on this week. Who knew? So I want to just sort of scoot ahead to Monday's milestone, the lunar flyby. Why does it matter? What do you hope to get out of it?
So it matters because, the whole point is to go back to the moon. The whole point of this mission is a campaign to get back to the moon. And the being able to see with human eyes the lunar surface is a huge milestone, right? And that just articulates the point, that we're going back to the moon. We're going to stay there, right? And so this is the first step towards that. We'll obviously build upon that. We'll get eyes on the moon, kind of map it out, and then continue to go back and in force.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll go next. I think for us, I'll just touch or follow on what Judd said, which is the building blocks. We're building a transportation system. And to have a reliable and robust transportation system, you need to test flight the transportation system. And I think that's really important. We've demonstrated on Artemis I with uncrewed capability. We've added a very important aspect of it, which is the crewed capability. And that crewed capability enables us to really understand how, when we have people in the cabin, how the systems operate and adjustments we need to make. You hear a lot of these kinds of things that over the loop, minor adjustments we need to do. Certainly engineering expertise and the design we put in has a certain understanding, but until you put people in the mix and you operate it and really understand what you need to do to operate in this kind of environment, you don't get that until you're in that environment. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, part of what we're doing is the technical aspects and what we are learning from taking ourselves around the moon. The other part, obviously, is what you talked about, which is capturing the imagination of people, right? And we have far more engagement than we had hoped to have, and we hope that it will increase as we continue to take further and further steps into this mission.
Okay, we'll take our next question here in the front, and then Eric next.
Hi, Mark Kirkman with NSF. This is probably for both Judd and Howard. I'm very fascinated, we just saw some imagery of the waste dump, and I'm very fascinated with the prediction of needing the correction burns versus what's going to be the reality. I was wondering, because there's so little available material on the subsystems, at least publicly available material. Can you summarize the things other than the waste dump that would affect or perturb the trajectory? What vents off of this vehicle as opposed to what we know from shuttle like fest dumps and stuff like that? And were you surprised that you didn't need this burn? Are we tighter in the prediction than is the reality tighter than the prediction was so far?
Yeah, so two parts to that question. First, so the major contributor to dispersions is what we call them, basically unplanned little tiny jets, are the carbon dioxide scrubbers. So they vent overboard, right? Vent the CO2 overboard. And so that's it's supposed to be a non-propulsive vent, but it has some propulsion to it, just like the urine vent has a little bit of propulsion to it. And so that causes minor trajectory deviations. Were we surprised that the orbiter correction or the trajectory correction was a no-burn? No, not at all. I mean, it's well within bounds. What happens really is we have a threshold by which if the required correction is low enough, that means that our fidelity on our lowest thrusting jets, our reaction control system, it's just not worth it, right? And so we'll just build up more errors and fix it on the next trajectory correction burn.
I think it's really good to see that we don't need these minor correction burns. It shows that our navigation performance and our ability to get ranging has been outstanding, and that these venting things, whether it's wastewater or the life support CO2 venting, doesn't cause the disturbances that are greater than what we would expect in terms of our performance. And I believe, I think we might have skipped maybe 2. I know we skipped 1 correction burn on Artemis I already. And so it's not unexpected. And so the flight control team gets an opportunity to determine when the delta V is very small, whether we actually need to execute that burn or not.
Okay, Eric, go ahead.
Eric Berger, Ars Technica. Yesterday, Howard, you made a comment about you wanted a little more humidity in the capsule, I think during the briefing, which as a Houston resident is always kind of funny to hear. But just now you mentioned that the humidity level was up and good. And maybe you could just talk about sort of the comfort in the cabin. I think there have been some questions about temperature. So kind of what temperature swings and what's the ambient temperature and sort of crew cabin comfort level?
Yeah, I'll let Judd start with the crew cabin temperature, and I can follow up. Why don't we try that?
Yeah, so we had a cabin temperature that was in the mid 70s when we first got on orbit, and then we turned off some of the shell heaters, and the temperature dropped around about 65 degrees or so. And then we understood that the crew was not comfortable at 65 degrees. So we turned some of those shell heaters on. We lowered some cabin fan speeds to try to adjust that. And we've gotten up into the low 70s, mid 70s right now. And as far as humidity, I think Howard mentioned this yesterday, but the carbon dioxide scrubbers really actually want some, a good amount of humidity so that they work effectively.
Yeah, so I'll answer, we've got a lot of different kind of knobs to turn to enable the comfort level or temperature changes. For example, the pressure vessel heaters that Judd's talking about, we can go up to 85 degrees. We're not anywhere close to that yet. So that's one knob, and we have other things where we could slow down the coolant loop speed as well in terms of how we trade the heat or the coolant that's necessary to go into the cabin as well. So a lot of different options are available. And overall, keeping a steady state relative to humidity in the cabin allows us to make sure we get good readings also from the CO2 and the CO2 scrubbing associated with that humidity.
I do want to remind us, though, that this is a part of what we want to do. We want an opportunity to be able to exercise these knobs that Howard is referring to so that we have a good characterization of the system going forward. We understand the capability of the spacecraft and its systems. This is what we want.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here.
Thank you, Mark Carreau with Aviation Week in Space Technology. I wanted to refer back to the external survey you did with solar array cameras of the Orion and the service module, just to see if you saw anything initially of concern that would have been damage to the exteriors, or it looks good.
Yeah, I have not personally seen the photos from our survey. I did watch it a little bit on TV as well, but I have not heard anything that we're concerned about, Mark. I think we will continue to go to fine detail and look at the pictures. Our thermal protection system team is doing that right now, and they'll give me a report out tomorrow morning and show me anything that they found relative to any damage. But we don't see anything relative to the back shell panels or anything like that that would cause anything of concern based on a preliminary understanding.
Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Jackie Waddles, CNN. Thanks for doing this. Quick question for Judd or Howard. I understand that during the latest communication with crew, they were talking about mopping up some kind of leak with towels. I'm not sure I understood exactly what was going on. I'd love some insight there. And then tomorrow, there's a couple of things on the schedule I'd love to hear more about with this manual piloting, test flight test objective, and a selfie moment. I'd love some insight into what's going on there. Thanks so much.
Sure. So mopping up water. So it's not uncommon for whenever they're filling drink bags for a little bit of water to come out. The particular incident I think that the crew was talking about likely was as we were filling the contingency water bags. Whenever we had to fill them, there's a straw and a syringe, and you put a towel around it to make sure water didn't come out. There's also a feature of the potable water dispenser such that when you turn the valve off, it still dribbles out water for a little bit. So those probably the couple of things that they're talking about. As far as tomorrow's objectives, manual piloting, so we're going to do 2 different modes. It's called 6 DOF and 3 DOF, 6 degrees of freedom and 3 degrees of freedom. It's different thruster modes of how much control that you have in all the axes and translation. So we're just it's another test objective of how the vehicle handles. And selfie, I think that's probably a selfie of the Orion vehicle with the cameras.
Yeah, very similar to what we did on Artemis I, where we had, I think, the biggest selfie stick in the world and allowed us to take all those beautiful pictures. We were originally intended to have those solar array cameras do the survey that Mark was referring to that we did today. But because we were performing so well that we were able to use one of the arrays as a selfie stick. And so that was terrific.
All right, we'll head to the phone bridge for a few questions. Our first question there is from Joseph Howlett with Scientific American.
Hi, Joseph Howlett here, Scientific American. I'm curious about how the crew is faring on board, how their spirits are. I was surprised that they only got to talk to their family now. And how did those conferences go?
Yeah, so we'll say a little bit about that. They are in great spirits, and they are really excited about the opportunity to be there and what's going on. Obviously, they've been very, very busy the first couple of days, especially leading up to translunar injection. But now that we've gotten through that, that's why there's been an opportunity for them to do things like have a conversation with their families. And in terms of the great things that are going on, they did get awakened this morning with a song called In a Daydream by the Freddie Jones Band. So there's a lot of fun things going on in addition to a lot of hard work.
Okay, our next question on the phone bridge is from Micah Maidenberg with the Wall Street Journal.
Hey, I just had a couple of quick ones for Judd. Judd, I wanted to make sure I understood this lunar science observation period. So during that 6-hour period, that's when Orion's traveling around the far side of the moon for the entire stretch of that, or not? And do you know approximately when on Monday that 6-hour period begins, like in Eastern or Central Time? Thanks so much.
Yes, I can get that for you. As far as what we're doing, it's essentially when we start our closest approach to the moon. It's pretty much the entirety of that day we'll be able to see the moon. And so what we're doing is we're doing visual observations, taking camera shots of the moon and the like. As far as when we start it, it's going to be UTC of around 1830 UTC on the 6th. So subtract 5, that's 1330 Central Time, and it'll be going on for most all of that day, right? Because they'll be at their closest approach and pretty close thereabouts during that entire time.
Okay, we'll take one more question on the phone bridge and then back here in the room. Our next question is from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking this. Probably for you, Judd. NOAA just issued a geomagnetic storm watch, G2, coronal mass ejection. I know you guys are watching this throughout the mission, but will this one, it doesn't seem to be too bad, but will the crew be doing any precautionary measures because of this? And same question from yesterday. What's the latest revised numbers for closest approach to the moon, all the numbers and distances? Thank you.
All right. Yes. So we do have our radiation specialists that monitor all of that stuff. And if any of the sunspot coronal mass ejections happen from the sun, if they get to be a concern, then obviously we have mitigations, radiation shelters we put up. We do not expect that from this one, but we are continually monitoring that. As far as the updated numbers, I've got in statute miles should be 252,757 statute miles at our furthest distance from the Earth.
You're not going to convert that to nautical miles?
I think Howard's got an app for that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here. Go ahead.
Hi, Lauren Grutch from Bloomberg. Thanks so much. I just wanted to go back to that helium issue you were talking about earlier. You said you isolated that one branch. Just wondering if there's any concern if the second branch that you're relying on now has a similar issue, or is that redundancy you mentioned earlier, would that kick in for this problem? And then I've just been listening to the loops, and it sounds like there have been various, I guess, sensor issues or issues that are cropping up that don't seem to be an issue, like there was a suspected cabin leak, caution alarms that were coming on, but then turned out to be false alarms. I'm just curious if you're sensing any pattern with that, or is that just random glitches for a test flight like this?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, the other second branch on the oxidizer side is performing very well. No issues there. And so, again, that redundancy is there. And I said earlier, you know, we do not need to regulate either on that line either for the rest of the burns. So I think both redundancy paths are in good shape. I would say, and I'll let Judd maybe talk some specifics. In general, Lakeisha said earlier, you know, we're learning from this vehicle. And the caution warnings are based on, you know, limits. And those limits are established jointly with the engineering team and the flight operations team. However, we have to operate in the environment. We have to, you know, account for variations. And so I think sometimes we don't get it fully right. And when we don't, we correct it and we'll make adjustments real time where we can. And if we need to, we'll make adjustments for the future as well once we get all the data. So I think all those things are part of the learning that we're doing, and certainly good to keep the team on their toes and making sure that we're not only watching the systems very carefully, but we understand what the system is telling us, and we're adjusting based on what we understand from the data.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So it's important to remember on Artemis I, we didn't have a caution and warning system. Because we didn't have a crew on board that we needed to alert them about, right? And so while we did measure, you know, all of the things we did, we obviously didn't have an ECLIS system on board either, so that we knew what the behavior that was going to be. So this is all part of exactly what Lakeisha is talking about. Is this is learning. This is learning how the vehicle operates with the human system in the loop, right?
Okay, we'll go to Bill next.
Hi, Bill Harwood with CBS News. This is a question I get asked a lot, and I realize that it depends on who you ask how it gets answered. But, you know, given all the Apollo missions, the satellites that we've had around the moon at much lower altitudes than these guys are going to be at, the question I get is what do human eyes really bring to this? Even if they've got nice cameras in their hands, they're a long way from the surface. I mean, 4,000 miles. What is this bringing that we don't already have from satellites and past missions? And I'm not saying that as a devil's advocate. I'm curious how you frame that in terms of the priorities of the mission. Thanks.
You want me to first? I could start, yeah. So my understanding, talking with the scientists, is that your eyes, the human eyes, can resolve details much better than taking a picture and then looking at the picture, even with a telephoto lens. And so that observation that the scientists are looking for is really what's key, even from as far as away as you mentioned, 4,000 miles. There are still things that the human eye can pick up with granularity that are important to the science community. Now, I can't talk about what those specific things that the science community is looking for, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I think I'll try to maybe repeat what I said earlier when I tell people this, and it's really purely from a spacecraft side. You know, when we talk about wanting to have a moon base, wanting to have people on the surface of the moon or other planets, you need a way to transport people safely to that particular domain. And to me, it's very important that we do everything we can to understand and provide that capability in a robust and reliable way. And you have to walk before you can run. And I think this is very important in our step towards exploration, is learning, as we talked about earlier with all these questions relative to our subsystems, learning about how the subsystems operate in space. How do we put people in space, especially to the moon first, We haven't done that in over 53 years. This is a whole new generation of learning that we're trying to do. Certainly, we learned a lot from our Apollo, I call giants, but we have our own learning to do, and we're trying to be more capable, and we're trying to provide more numerous opportunities to go to the moon so that we can put people down on the surface.
All right, we'll take our next question right here. Go ahead.
Hi, Michael Adkison, Houston Public Media. I know you guys are all too familiar with the Apollo 8 comparisons to this mission. They obviously did their Christmas Eve broadcast, and Sunday is Easter. We're in the midst of Passover, and Ramadan even was a couple of weeks ago. Are there any plans to do any sort of downlinks to mark the occasion or anything like that?
There will be an opportunity, obviously, to hear from the crew, and we will be having a conversation in terms of what they intend to share with us. They are always inspirational in their communication with us, and we're really looking forward to that.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here in the middle.
Hi, TG Mascaro with the Epoch Times. Thank you so much. My question, Howard, what specific things have exceeded your expectations in terms of the Orion spacecraft?
Well, that's interesting. I would say that, just how happy and how well trained the crew is and our teams are to just work through just minor issues that we've had. To me, it's not so much an exceedance of expectation. I expect that, but just to see it in play, just to see how well that's working out. And of course, I expect our spacecraft to perform, but you never know. This is why we have a flight test, and it makes me very happy to see that although we have some minor issues to deal with, the team operates very well with the crew, both on the ground collectively between our mission evaluation room, our flight control team, and with the crew together, working together. And of course, the spacecraft is responding in a way that, of course, we knew about from Artemis I. Every spacecraft is different, but the process is the same, the rigorous testing that we do and the analysis we do. And so I would say that it's always good to beat expectations.
Richard Two of the Post newspaper. A question for Judd. Talking a little bit like a different aspect of this, so that with the MCC, can you talk about so many moving parts make this mission successful coming out of that department? What's the tone and the consensus of the controllers, the directors, as they see this mission transpire, and what are they thinking as far as how things are going so far in the mission?
So my sense is that there's a lot of people that are very excited, right? And excited not only for the overall general, objective that we're going back to the moon, but also just from, there's a lot of time that people have invested in training for this mission, developing the mission, being able to work well with all of the teams together, and to see that come together. I think there's a lot of excitement there, and it shows.
That question, just curious, the technology's changed so much in mission control from the Apollo days to Artemis. Is there anything that you all have learned during this mission? Have you made any changes in mission control? We see the astronauts are making changes on the fly. I'm just curious to know if any changes are being made in mission control as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hear it in all of the funnies we see with sensors, the way they behave, the way the systems behave. That means that we are all reacting to that, and we are developing on the fly different ways than we originally thought how we would operate the vehicle. And so that is always an iterative process, right? And I think you're seeing demonstration of that in real time, and that we're iterating on not only learning about the vehicle, but also how to iteratively operate the vehicle as well.
Okay, we'll take another question right here in the room.
Yeah, hi, Beverly Casillas for Space Scout. Thanks again for doing this. Two quick questions. The first one, so we heard that the optical communications demo is already being used to downlink some imagery from the spacecraft. It sounds like that happened overnight. Are there any plans to potentially do any transmission of live video during the mission? And is that something we would get to see, if so? And then a second question, because it sounds like Orion's maneuvering has been really precise during the mission so far, what are you hoping to learn during this mission about guidance and navigation and PNT in the lunar environment? And is there anything that you're kind of already learning about that process? Thanks.
So I'll take the first part. For optical comm, the way the trajectory is set up, unfortunately, the only passes that we have with Goldstone are when the crew is asleep. And so anything that we have downlinked would be just, video that you're already kind of seeing, higher resolution of the spacecraft looking back at either the moon or the Earth. And so for that purposes, we're really going to just use it for high-res video downlink. And then your second question.
I think I'll take the.
Yeah, why don't you take that? Yeah.
Can you repeat your second question? I think you said something. Correct my ears. Guidance, navigation, control. So. Yeah. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, because we've seen how precise the kind of trajectory planning has already been with, not needing to do this correction burn. Have you been having any learnings already about navigation and PNT with the Orion spacecraft and like ground systems during this mission? And is there anything at the moon that you're also hoping to kind of learn and experience on that front?
So, we're using very traditional navigation instruments, so star trackers, the inertial measuring units I talked about yesterday. I think those are, we expect them to be precise. They're tried and true navigation instruments or sensors that are on a lot of spacecraft across the board. I think one of the things that we may have not talked about a lot is we have a capability on Orion to navigate without ground comm. And that's the optical comm system, optical navigation system. And that's a camera-based system that gives you a really good enough navigation knowledge to be able to return the crew home and perform the mission. And so that's something that's a new capability that we're very interested in. I know the navigation team is certainly very interested. We did do some testing on Artemis I, and we learned a lot from that. We'll learn a lot from this because it basically takes pictures and translate that size of the moon or the Earth, depending on which way you're pointed, and gives you navigation knowledge from that. So again, that's a tool that we expect. And of course, as an old controls guy, control systems, ability to have good latency or no latency potentially, and ability to fire the jets when you need it, the combination jets you need them based on your offset center of gravity and where you are in terms of your mass properties are really a great knowledge across the board of understanding. We put a lot of effort into protecting for a lot of dispersions, as Judd's talked about previously. And of course, when we encounter those dispersions, being able to control our spacecraft through them is really important as well. So all that we'll be learning. We will learn a lot, even though we have very good instruments, even though we know we have good control laws, we've implemented algorithms. Every mission is a great learning event, and it's really great to see that the precision of the work we put in is being replicated on orbit.
And I would add to that, in addition, as good as the sensors are on Orion, we still have to do ranging of the vehicle to update its state knowledge every once in a while. And so as a lessons learned from Artemis I, we have a new suite of tools on the ground that are able to process that ranging data. And also to hopefully, what we're hoping to learn is to back out all of those, minor dispersions from, non-propulsive events that are a little bit propulsive, so that we understand that can characterize all of the error sources of the navigation state.
Okay, we'll take another question here in the room, and then we'll go back to our phone bridge. Go ahead.
Thank you. Tarek Malik with space.com. I think for Judd, there was discussion yesterday about how Flight Day 3 was a big change of pace for the crew. After the first kind of action-packed couple days. And I'm really curious how, I know they had CPR demos today, they had lunar science preps today, how that change has gone. And then I know that tomorrow they've got some scheduled time, at least 20 minutes, to take photos of celestial bodies. And I'm just curious, if it's not the Earth and the Moon, what else might they be taking pictures of out the window in their personal time there? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably saw in some of the videos, the crew has a lot more time on their hands than they did in the first days. We were able to present them to you and have them talk to the media. As far as the pace, yeah, I think you can probably tell from the downlinks that the pace is quite different than it was the first couple of days. As far as celestial, I mean, they're taking pictures of stars and moon and sun, right? So anything they can see that is of interest.
Okay, we'll head back over to our phone bridge. Our next question is from David Denault with About Space Today News. Go ahead.
I need to do a follow-up regarding the cabin temperatures. Has NASA determined a desired temperature and a desired humidity, and is there any relationship to that with the carbon dioxide?
As far as the desired cabin temperature, that is up to crew discretion, right? And so we're simply going off of what feels best to them as a consensus for the 4 members of the crew members. Humidity, we have to have some amount of humidity. I think we mentioned earlier for the carbon dioxide, we don't want it to be Arizona dry, I think is the term to use. We certainly want, but obviously the crew doesn't want it to be Houston humid either, right? So,
yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
About 70s and about 20 around there.
Yep.
Yep, they're comfortable.
Okay, we'll take another question from our phone bridge. Our next one is from Allison McGraw. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Allison McGraw, Mysterious Meteorites. Congratulations on the continued success from the giant leap for planetary science. My question is, given the crew's training with the CLO, or Crew Lunar Operations, what geology or image targets are first to be taken of during the lunar flyby? Thank you.
I think we heard your conversation about images supporting geology. Yeah, so the crew is definitely going to be preparing themselves during the lunar flyby and during the time that they are going around the moon to take images. They are actually working now with the science team that has gotten underway, and they are doing preparations and working together to figure out what will be of interest and what they expect to see on flight day 6. And so that coordination continues as guided by our science team.
Okay, we'll go ahead and come back here to the room. If I can get a show of hands, how many more questions we have? Okay, we'll jump right over here. We'll take a few on this side, and then we'll come back over to this side.
Hello, Dan Lenahan from the Naval Postgraduate School. You've talked about this mission being a flight test program and an envelope expansion. And with the importance of the International Space Station, can you maybe talk about how the systems in Orion were originally kind of tested out prior to this mission in order to kind of succeed?
Yeah, I'll start with the Universal Waste Management System, or the toilet. The same toilet was flown on space station. I think the crews there were able to operate it for roughly about 2 weeks, if I remember. And so that was a really good, important test in a relevant environment against our toilet that we would be able to fly to the moon with. So that's one piece. I don't think there's probably smaller equipment, like, for example, the CO2 removal system. The heart of it is these amine beads. They absorb CO2 and then we vent it out. The same technology is on the space station, different way on how they approach it, but very similar in terms of absorbing and desorbing of the CO2 that comes from us humans. And that was also a really good foundation to stand on, and our confidence associated with ability to remove CO2, although in a different manner on board our spaceship. So those are two probably the big items that I would translate between what we've learned from space station and what we've applied for Orion.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here and then right behind you after.
Thank you. Jonathan Seri with Fox News. I'm interested in the medical equipment on board. How did the CPR demonstrations go? How did the other demonstrations go? And then if you could explain Avatar. I understand what it is, but I don't understand how the chips interact with the cell samples. If you could school me on that.
So they haven't done the CPR demo as of yet, or at least as I started the conference. So that's later on today. Avatar.
So we don't have a science representative here with us today, but as best I understand that Avatar is actually analog tissue samples from the crew members, and they have been brought on board, and there's going to be an expectation that they'll be evaluating those samples for how they react to the environment while they are on this mission, including reaction to exposure to radiation as well. And so when it gets back, we'll be very interested to understand what they learned, both from the crew themselves as well as their avatars.
And Jonathan, if you need anything else on that, we can get it to you after the press conference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Robert Coppinger, the British Interplanetary Society's Spaceflight magazine. Do you have any information on the status of the CubeSats that were deployed?
Sure. All 4 CubeSats were successfully deployed on the planned timeline about 5 hours after launch. There has been positive communication with 2 of the CubeSat satellites, the one from Saudi Arabia as well as the one from Argentina. And then in terms of how they're faring, at this point, it would definitely be best to reach out to the payload owners in terms of how they're doing. But they absolutely were deployed as expected.
Okay, we'll take another question over here, and then we'll head back over to the right side of the room.
Hi, Katrina Miller from the New York Times. Any milestones we can expect for the rest of today? What are you 3 focused on for the latter half of day 3?
Sure. As was previously mentioned, we have the CPR demo. We'll have another press conference with the crew. They'll go look at do their med kit evaluations of what they have on board. Also, we have, as far as communications with the Deep Space Network, we're going to test out again the emergency comm mode in a more deliberate fashion. And I believe Jeremy has a press conference with so it's a CSA press conference, and then some more planned medical conferences.
Okay, we'll take our next question from Will. Go ahead.
Hi, Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. Thank you all for the time today. Question for Howard. It might be a little bit early to ask this, but from the performance you've been seeing in Orion so far on hardware and a software side, do you foresee any notable changes or updates to hardware or software for the Orion spacecraft that will fly Artemis II at this point, besides the heat shield, of course? And then the images that we've seen so far, for whoever wants to take this, so far have come from Reed Wiseman. Don't know if that's just happenstance or, if the other crew members are getting good pictures, but will we see a variety of the photography skills in the days to come? How is that kind of being decided and divvied up at this point? Thanks.
All right, I'll take your first question. I think walking into this meeting, or this mission, and hearing from you here relative to just the software changes we're talking about are going to be caution warning for sure. The limits that we put on, we're going to learn a lot from this mission. So there's going to be, I call them software. You probably don't think of them as software, but really data values for limits. So those will be changing for sure. We have not seen any issues with our flight software, the actual code itself. Of course, we'll learn a lot more as we go forward next few days. Hopefully we'll find nothing. But we don't, we'll make some adjustments if we need to for Artemis III. Our software development is still a few months ahead of us in terms of completing it. We've got a lot of the software done already. Of course, we've got a lot of software for Artemis II. From a hardware perspective, there's a lot of learning. These, I would say, minor issues that we've encountered, and these isolation valves, et cetera, we're going to go check those out and try to get the root cause. And if we have any things that impact our ability to fly at Artemis III, we will work that.
Hey, Howard, why don't you also touch on the different camera capabilities to include the mobile phone cameras, et cetera?
Yeah, so from an image perspective, before maybe Judd talks about who's going to take pictures, if you might or may not know that we have iPhones on board for the crew members, and they're able, not only the Nikon D5s and the Z9s that we have on board that we preloaded already, they were able to also take some iPhones as well. That's what Lakeisha's referring to. And so they'll get some great images from all those cameras. And I'll let Judd talk about who gets assigned the best pictures. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably just happenstance that you've seen, Reed's pictures. Every one of them are going to be taking pictures, and I'm sure once we get, are able to downlink all of the pictures, I think you will see a suite of pictures from all of the crew members.
Okay, it looks like we have one more in the room. Do we have, okay, we'll go ahead and take one from you, and then we'll head back over here. Thanks.
Hello, Kaya Burgess from the Times of London. With the loss of signal as they go behind the moon, is there any plan in the future to try and overcome that for future missions, to try and use kind of satellites at Lagrange points or wherever it might be, so that in future that communication behind the moon will be possible and you will never be out of signal in the future? Obviously, it's been possible for Chinese missions that have landed landers on the far side. Is that something that you will be looking into?
So I'll just mention, as part of the administrator's Ignition initiative, he has talked about all kinds of different capabilities that we are going to try to add in a stepped approach to include capabilities on the surface on the moon, as well as communication capabilities. And relay capabilities will be absolutely a part of that for supporting us in the future.
Okay, we have another question right here. And do we have any additional questions after this one? All right, one last question in the room.
Thank you. Rod Pyle at Astro Magazine. Similar question. How long do you expect the blackout to be during the flyby? And given that there's no burn back there, is there any reason to be chewing our pencils? And is there anything to learn from the timing when they come back out and you reacquire signal? Thank you.
So as to your second question, no, physics takes over, and physics will absolutely get us back to the front side of the moon. Let's see, I don't think I have the timing yet on this for how long we're going to be out of comm, but I can get you that.
Is it about 40 minutes?
Yeah, it's around.
Somewhere in that vicinity. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is 40 minutes. All right, well, it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see all of you back here again tomorrow at 4:15 for our next mission status briefing.